Honorable Chief Guest Shri Jyotiraditya M. Scindia ji with the Green Certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, the Green Certificate is a FICCI initiative wherein a grove of 10 trees will be planted in the Sundarbans National Park, West Bengal, in the name of the Honorable Minister. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We also welcome Shri Rajiv Bansal ji, IAS, Secretary Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We also welcome Shri Asangba Choba Au, IAS, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. Warm welcome to you, sir. And we also welcome with a Green Certificate Shri Sanjeev Kumar, IAS, Chairman, Airports Authority of India. Warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Millard, for doing the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, civil aviation industry in India has emerged as one of the fastest growing industries in the country during the last 3 years. India has become the third largest domestic aviation market in the world and is expected to overtake the UK to become the third largest air passenger market by 2024. India's civil aviation industry has flown many miles, set numerous milestones, and overcome many challenges to become one of the world's most lucrative aviation markets. The growth of the sector has been monumental. To unleash its true potential, the government has set up a roadmap to achieve the vision of 2047 for the civil aviation sector of India, focusing on policies to add remote and regional areas to the map of Indian aviation. And may I now invite Shri Sanjeev Kumar, IAS Chairman, Airports Authority of India, to kindly begin the proceedings with his welcome address. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome him.
A very, very good evening to all of you. I heartily welcome Honorable Union Minister of Civil Aviation and Steel, Shri Jyotiraditya M. Scindia ji, Shri Rajiv Bansal ji, Secretary Civil Aviation, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Mr. Remy Maillard, Chairman FICCI Civil Aviation Committee and President, and MD Airbus South Asia and India, Shailesh ji Pathak, my colleague Asangba, all dear guests, ambassadors, members of the foreign missions in India, senior officials from the central and state government, captains of the industry, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good evening and warm welcome to all. This event, the curtain raiser, is a prelude to Wings India 2024, the flagship event of the civil aviation sector in India. It is scheduled in Hyderabad in the month of January 2024, between 18th January to 21st January. As Asia's prominent event on civil aviation, Wings India is jointly organized by Ministry of Civil Aviation, Airport Authority of India, Government of Telangana, the host state, and FICCI since year 2018. Dear guests, your presence today is the proof of the energy and support that the industry accords to Wings India 2024. It is a matter of honor, and we are all grateful for the positive engagement of the industry with the government on all issues concerning the aviation sector. Wings India 2024 will provide a platform to aviation stakeholders to showcase the latest development in this sector, reiterate the sector's significance to the country's economy, and will help create myriad opportunities for partnership and collaborations. I am pleased to inform the audience that the previous edition of the Wing India that took place from 24th to 27th March 2022 at Begumpet Airport was a huge success. Event saw healthy participation from airport infrastructure companies, drone manufacturers, users, skill development organizations, space industry, airlines, airline services and cargo, aircraft and helicopter manufacturers, aircraft interior, aircraft machinery and equipment companies. More than 125 international and domestic exhibitors participated in Wing India 2022. Delegations from over
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for those warm words of welcome. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the proud privilege in inviting Mr. Remy Millard, Chairman FICCI Civil Aviation Committee and President and MD, Airbus India and South Asia, to kindly present the industry perspective. And let's put our hands together to welcome him.
Honorable Minister Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia ji, Monsieur le Ministre, Secretary MOCA Shri Rajiv Bansalji, Chairman AI Sanjeev Kumar ji, Joint Secretary MOCA Shri Yao ji, my colleague from FICCI Shri Patak. It is always a pleasure to be back among my industry friends, and more so on this happy occasion of the countdown to Wings India 2024. Much has changed in Indian aviation since we met in Hyderabad in 2022. Our traffic has recovered spectacularly. Air travel penetration is rising. And airline operators are once again focusing on growth. In this strong recovery, FICCI appreciates that the government has remained a guiding light, an enabler for our These segments require attention to grow, and they should not be seen as a burden on the country's import bill. FICCI is thankful that the ministry is proactively pushing new helicopter segments like HEMS, and we look forward to the helicopter summit later this year and for some policy announcements to help the sector. As instruments of nation building, helicopters require no less attention than commercial aviation. As the chair of FICCI's Civil Aviation Committee, I want to convey our industry's gratitude to the Government of India and the Ministry of Civil Aviation for organizing a show like Wings India with such consistent success. Wings has got bigger and better with every edition. And I'm confident that Wings India 2024 will set the bar even higher. I'll stop here. I'm sure by the time we reconvene in Hyderabad, our industry will be touching newer heights, including a greater footprint in the international air travel market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the presentation on the introduction of Wings India 2024, please join me in welcoming Shri Asangba Choba Au, IAS Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Chief Guest of the Curtain Raiser, Shri Jyotiraditya M. Scindia, Union Minister for Civil Aviation and Steel, Government of India, other dignitaries on the stage, honored guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all of you, and it is my privilege and honor to share with you a brief introduction to Wings India 2024. Many, if not most of us here, are aware about the Ministry of Civil Aviation, along with the Airports Authority of India and the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, is once again organizing the next edition of Wings India in 2024. The event is scheduled from the 18th to the 21st of January 2024 at Hyderabad, India. This is a biennial event, and the last one was held in March 2022 with resounding success despite the effects of the COVID pandemic. I would now like to take you through the objectives, key features of the event, and what can be expected in the coming edition. basic objectives of the Wings India is to showcase achievements and also a platform to deliberate and share experiences for reforms. This also includes highlighting global best practices and knowledge sharing, as well as broadening the scope for global connectivity and eventually pave the way for sustainable growth. We are expecting, obviously, a larger and much wider participation as compared to the earlier edition, with more than 1,500 delegates, participation from more than 30 foreign delegations, 100,000 plus visitors, 20 plus aircraft at static display, participation from all states and union territories, etc. The scope of participation has also been expanded to try and include the entire spectrum of stakeholders in the ecosystem, in the aviation ecosystem, starting from civil aviation authorities to CEOs, industry, including MROs, infrastructure investors, and also the FTOs and aviation education universities. This also includes startups in aviation. So what to expect at Wings India 24? Just a few snippets of what we can expect at Wings India 2024. Drone demonstrations, static displays, discussions on future technology. This includes eVTOLs, etc. Discussions on sustainability and carbon neutrality, which is, I'm sure we all agree, the need of the hour. And also discussions on emerging trends in aviation, which includes AI, augmented reality, blockchain, contactless technology, cloud computing, among others. We would also like to showcase Indian startups in the aviation sector, and finally, to promote the Make in India initiative. So these are some of the things that we can expect at Wings India 2024, among many others. The program agenda as planned for the event, on day one, we would like, there would be a number of platforms for discussions, starting with topics on airlines, on the helicopter industry. As Remy just mentioned, it's an industry which we need to focus more on airports, which will be followed by the Wings India Awards, as well as the networking dinner. The day two would start off with the panel discussions on the MRO sector, on the business aviation, aircraft leasing and financing, aviation education and skill development, and also on cargo and emerging technologies. And day 3 and 4 would be basically for the general public, which would include an exhibition, flying displays, drone demonstrations, and student competitions. Block the dates, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for kindly presenting a brief introduction of Wings India 2024. We would now request the Honourable Minister to kindly do the honours of unveiling the event Wings India 2024, being formally unveiled by the Honourable Minister. Also request you, sir, to kindly relieve before. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for kindly doing the honours. And ladies and gentlemen, we now present before you a short promotional video of Wings India 2024.
India's civil aviation industry is among the fastest growing in the world. And on the heels of this growth, Wings India, Asia's largest event in civil aviation, provides a congenial forum catering to the rapidly changing dynamics of the sector. The past events have exemplified the Government of India's commitment to transforming India into one of the world's top civil aviation hubs. The last edition of Wings India, that is Wings India 2022, the biennial civil aviation and aerospace event, was inaugurated at Begumpet Airport at Hyderabad by the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. Airport Authority of India, together with the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, from 24th to 27th March 2022, with the theme India at 75, New Horizon for Aviation Industry. Currently, India is the third largest civil aviation market in the world and the third largest aviation market in terms of domestic operations. The objective of the event was to bring together international delegations, top officials from the central government, states and UTs, global CEOs of the aviation industry and other key stakeholders under one roof to discuss the key issues and identify the opportunities in the Indian aviation sector. Wings India 2022 was inaugurated by Shri Jyotiraditya M. Scindia, Honorable Union Minister of Civil Aviation and Steel, Government of India.
Wings India is the largest civil aviation conference in the whole of Asia. And it's apt to say that it is housed in the fastest growing civil aviation market today in the world.
The event had a special focus on connecting cities and towns to increase connectivity in the country. It established itself as the most comprehensive platform in the region for interaction, forging alliances and investment to boost air connectivity between states and global aviation players. Key highlights of the events were 125 exhibitors, 22 participating foreign delegations, 28 states and UTs, 14 roundtables and sessions, 76 speakers, 69 Wings India Awards, 12 aircrafts at static display, 1,200 delegates, 3,253 business visitors, 52,345 general visitors, 364 B2G, B2B meetings. Other highlights included the announcement of a letter of intent between Flybig and de Havilland Aircraft Company of Canada, an MOU between HAL and PHL, the release of a knowledge paper titled Emergence of a Global Leader, Aviation in India, and the release of a new sub-scheme to promote small aircrafts, helicopters and seaplanes under the UDAN scheme. An aerobatic show showcased the helicopter air show by the Indian Air Force Sarang team. As India continues to emerge as a dominant player globally, its aviation sector is gaining recognition and assuming a prominent leadership role. This sector acts as a group multiplier, including economic output, tourism, employment, and trade enabled through better connectivity, and has proven to be the largest contributor to the Make in India initiative. We look forward to seeing you again on the 18th to 21st of January 2024 at Wings India.
Thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, I now have the proud privilege in inviting Shri Rajiv Bansalji, IAS, Secretary Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India, to kindly do the honors of addressing the august house present here today. Please put your hands together to welcome him.
My Honorable Minister for Civil Aviation, Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia ji, distinguished delegates with me on the dais, distinguished invitees who are here with us today. What a pleasure it is to see you all today. What a pleasure it is to welcome you to the curtain raiser event of the Wings event for next year. Thank you so successful. I've had the privilege of being part of the earlier Wings events, and one of the feedbacks that we often received was that when we held the event in April, it was too Begumpet in Hyderabad. As a lot has been said and has been shown in the video that we just saw, and clearly we are on a roll our civil aviation sector is on a huge growth path. If I was to identify two key features that may characterize the growth in the next remaining few years of this decade, I would feel that one of the big growth areas would be the growth in international connectivity to our metros. Our major airports are growing. Many of them have already implemented expansion plans. Delhi Airport is expanding and is going to reach new heights this year with the inauguration of the 4th runway. Chennai has got a new terminal building. Hyderabad is expanding. Bangalore has expanded. A new airport is coming up in Mumbai. So in all these metro airports, I think we're going to see a huge capacity addition and a huge number of more aircraft movements, both domestic and international. Currently, India is connected to less than 100 destinations globally. I think there is huge potential to improve international connectivity from all these locations. And I think in the next 6-7 years, we will see a major uptick in our connectivity by Indian carriers as well as foreign carriers to newer destinations, to newer countries, and to newer points of call in many of the countries which are hitherto unconnected. Order of Air India and the ongoing orders that Indigo has in place is an indication that this dream that we have of creating international hubs in India will soon be converted into reality. Interestingly, the other growth aspect of the Indian aviation story is that on the other end of the spectrum, we are also seeing growth in the small aircraft segment. And we are seeing today newer airports coming up in smaller places, newer airports getting connected under the UDAN scheme, newer connectivity being supported by state government and union territories. And I would feel that in the next few years, there'll be a whole lot of smaller aircraft, less than 19-seater aircraft, which would be flying in our skies. This would enable a lot more people from tier 2, tier 3 cities to come into the domestic aviation map, and they in turn will feed into our metros and then reach out to international destinations. Both these factors, Indian aviation, but to the Indian economy as a whole and to tourism in particular. I think these are two major trends that we can see going forward. In the last Wings Summit last year, we witnessed the signing of an agreement by one of the airline operators for smaller fixed-wing aircraft. I think some of these aircraft will be delivered by the time the actual Wings event will happen next year, and that will be something that we are all looking forward to. I think with these, backed by these two ends, the growth at the bigger end of the spectrum and also at the lower end of the spectrum, we would surely emerge as one of the biggest aviation markets in the world. We are thankful to all the international companies who have been with us in this growth journey. Many of you are present here with us today. We are thankful to all the excellencies from various countries who are here. In the earlier times, we used to have this event every year, and now we hold it every 2 years. We are really thankful to FICCI for being a pillar of support for organizing, helping us organizing this event, and I particularly thank Remy, who's here with us, who's chairing the FICCI committee, for supporting us in this endeavor. And I must place on record my sincere thanks to my minister, Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia ji, who has been leading this growth story from the front. He's been a a great inspiration to me personally, as well as to our entire team in the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and to all of us who are helping us to grow and keep growing in this 100th year that we are going to celebrate. In the next 25 years, we are celebrating what we call the Amrit Kal, and by 2047, we will be commemorating 100 years of independence. And I take this opportunity to request all of you to be part of our civil aviation growth story, of our economic growth story, and look forward to meeting all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Jyotiraditya M. Scindia ji is a dynamic and an experienced statesman, renowned for his dedication and unwavering commitment to public service. With a remarkable political career spanning over 2 decades, he has consistently worked towards the betterment of society and the welfare of the people. Having served in various key ministerial roles, Shri Scindia ji brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the aviation industry. Leadership are poised to make a significant impact in the post-COVID world as we navigate new challenges and seize emerging opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia ji with us today, and we eagerly anticipate his insights and contributions towards making the civil aviation sector more dynamic, resilient, and progressive. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm round of applause as we invite Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia ji to share his valuable perspectives.
Seated on the dais with me, Secretary in my department, Rajiv Bansal ji, Sanjeev Kumar ji, Asangba ji, Secretary General of FICCI, Shailesh Pathak ji, Remy Millard ji, Your Excellencies present here this evening, members of the civil aviation fraternity, is a historic occasion. It indeed is a momentous occasion. It is that time in India, not only for civil aviation in Asia, but it would not be an exaggeration to say for civil aviation on a global scale. And the import of, as a country, India's rise as a market and propensity to grow. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a different India landscape. If it allowed the emergence of ecosystems to set foot, which hitherto probably did not exist 9 or 10 years ago. A new era of entrepreneurship, which has even touched our sector in the area of civil aviation. Across manufacturing, across services. And therefore, as we come together today as a family, and I use that word meaningfully, quote unquote family, a fraternity that is eager, a fraternity that today looks at the growth prospects from a national point of view, from an international point of view, from a regional point of view. And it is today in 2023 that civil aviation The journey that it has undertaken over the last 9 years has firmly established itself as a bulwark and a means of transportation within the country and a means of transportation internationally outside the country. We've all been through very, very difficult times. From an economic standpoint across the world, and from a personal standpoint for many of us. Many of us have been through a very difficult time in this COVID period. Many of us have lost those who have been extremely close to us. But as they say that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, as they say you must always have hope, and it is that hope that will drive us. It is that hope that will give us confidence. And as we talk about personal hardships, if we look at our sector was probably the worst struck from an economic perspective across the globe, across every industry. For the first time in the history of civil aviation, probably, we had planes that were permanently parked on the tarmac, that did not have a single passenger. Both airports and airlines that were bleeding profusely. But look at how miraculous the V-shaped recovery has been. Today, when we sit on the 18th of May, 2023, in this hall, in 2 years, the situation has completely turned. When we look at cargo, in the last 15 years, cargo has grown almost 60% on a domestic basis, 50% on an international basis. And the levers that have been in place in our country to provide that, fundamentally, our economic growth rate. The fact that India is growing between 6 to 7.5% on a decadal basis. That underlying growth rate has the capability to transform lives, transform destinies of states, transform destinies of countries. If only we look at the most rapidly developed country in the world, the United States of America. What is the US of A story? The US of A story is not a 10% growth rate, is not a 9% growth rate. But the US of A's success story is that the US of A has grown at 2 to 2.5%, but has grown at that rate for the last 100 years. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of compounding. And that power of compounding, for the first time in the history of India, is being experienced in our country. It's lifting millions of people above the poverty line. It's giving opportunities to millions of youngsters that were never prevalent before. And that's why in a country that you had probably had 462 startups, you today have 84,000 startups. In a country, you have 116 unicorns in our country. And many of those startups are also in our space, in civil aviation. So one, economic growth. Second, rapid urbanization. India is growing from a rural economy into an urban economy. We are today at 34% of our country is urbanized. By 2030, 42% of our country will be urbanized. And that urbanization will lead to greater travel by civil aviation. The third is our level of disposable income. The fact that we have today in our country the number of households that are earning between 5 to 10 million rupees has grown by 35% in the last 9 years. The number of households that are earning greater than 10 million has grown by almost 25% in the last 10 years. And therefore, the propensity to spend, the propensity to consume today has reached a common man's wallet. And finally, the fact that today 1.3 billion people in our country, we, by the way, have become the most populous country in the world, even ahead of China. But that most populous tag also has another tag attached to it. We've probably become the most aspirational country in the world as well. And when you combine economic growth with urbanization, and you combine economic growth with urbanization along with higher disposable income, and combine those three factors with an aspiration, then you have a tremendous exponential market opportunity. And that will only be possible when we work together as a team. Because I firmly believe that in your success lies our sector success. And in our sectors, we must sit on a round table with you, not opposite you, but alongside you as facilitators in your journey. And it is with that thought and that sentiment that we are looking at a massive game. It is our impetus and our aim, a three-pronged aim. The first, we need to create capacities. The second, we need to remove all bottlenecks. There must be no bottleneck on your critical path. That's our job. And the third, simplify processes and procedures for you. And it is with that aim and that sentiment that we have put in a plan for the last 9 years and roughly an airport a year. In the last 9 years, from 2014 till today, we have built an additional 74 airports, heliports, and waterdromes, doubling our capacity to 148. But let me commit to you today that that is not the end. This is the beginning of our commitment. It is our commitment to take this number of 148 to over 200 over the next 3 to 4 years. And it is with that commitment in mind that this year's budget, the finance minister announced an additional funding plan for another 50 airports under our regional connectivity scheme called Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. So there's a fundamental concentration of creating capacity, the gateways for our passengers to be able to travel. Secretary Sahab was talking on the dais today about our metros. Today, our 6 metros in our country have a throughput capacity of 220 million passengers. In another 3 years, 3 to 4 years, this number is going to grow from 220 million to 420 million just in the 6 metro airports. Delhi today is at 70 million throughput capacity. In another 4 months, Delhi is going to go from 70 million to 109 million, becoming one of the largest airports in the world, ladies and gentlemen. We have a 98,000 crore capex plan over the next 3 years. 32,000 by Airports Authority of India, 66,000 by the private sector, 45 brownfield airports being worked on by Airports Authority of India, 3 greenfield airports being worked on by the Airports Authority of India, 7 brownfield airports being worked on by the private sector, 4 greenfield airports being worked on by the private sector. The concept of 2 airports in one city is no longer going to be an alien thought in India. Goa already has 2 airports. Delhi will soon have an airport in its neighborhood, in Jewar. A new airport is coming up in Navi Mumbai, in the metros. And along with that growth of airport capacity, we also have growth in our aircraft fleet. A country that in 2014 had only 700 planes, had only 400 planes. Today we have 700 planes, a growth of 75%. And that capacity is only going to expand more. Remy, who is looking around for orders today, is fully saturated. And the shoe is pinching him on the other foot. As how is he going to deliver the aircraft in the timeline that he has committed to? And therefore, the environment today as far as airport and aircraft capacity is ripe. But along with that, it is my thrust and my area of focus that in India we must focus on last mile connectivity. Connectivity to the hinterland is mandatory and it should not be optional anymore. And there the Prime Minister's vision in coming up with a viability gap funding scheme called Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. हवाई चप्पल पहनने वाला भी हवाई जहाज में उड़े. Truly, if you look at one fundamental change that civil aviation has gone through in the last 9 years, it has been elitization of civil aviation. Civil aviation is no longer an elitist product. Civil aviation is not meant for only a select few. Civil aviation today has become a travel system and a travel method for the masses of India. But we still have a long way to go. When we look at our growth numbers from 60 million to 144 million, those indeed are remarkable. But we've only scratched the top of the envelope. If you look at our penetration rates, out of the 144 million people who travel, there are many of us, like you and I, who are repeat travelers. True penetration is roughly 30 to 40 million, which means that you're talking about hardly 2 to 3% penetration rate in our country on a population of 1.3 billion. Which means there's 97% of our market left still unexplored. And therefore these airports in Darbhanga, these airports in Jharsuguda, these airports in Kishangarh in Rajasthan, these airports in Rupsi in Assam come through helicopters. I was shocked. And yet helicopters are the best ways of connecting many remote parts of the Northeast, our hill states of Uttarachal and Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And therefore through Udan, which by the way, 1.2 crore people have traveled through Udan who could never dream of sitting in an airplane before. 220,000 flights have been undertaken. 473 new routes. small aircrafts, where we would even fund through the VGF part of the leasing costs. And I'm glad to report that Udan 4.2 was dedicated 16 for helicopters, 50 for seaplanes, and 120 for small aircrafts. And today you have new airlines being spawned through Udan. 3 new airlines have been born in India only because of Udan. And today they are flying small planes connecting remote parts of our country. So therefore that transition is coming about today. We are trying to use technology, trying to convert VFR routes on helicopters to IFR routes, using a new remote pilot technology, drawing in aircraft. Instead of IFR systems, we are using a system called Gagan that can remotely bring in aircraft without IFR requirements. So we're on the cusp of technological change as well. And a similar tectonic transformation and shift is coming in the area of drones. It is our commitment that India must become the drone hub of the world by 2030. And for that, on the one hand, maps through drones. Never before in any other country in the world has the government come to the forefront to provide that demand cachet for an industry that is in its infancy. And I certainly believe that this drone industry will also transform the landscape in India. But as we grow around building capacities, airports, planes, new areas, last mile connectivity, it's also important for us to build our infrastructural capacity of being able to service this industry. And so for the first time within our ministry, Airports Authority of India has grown its capacity of ATCOs by almost 50%. In 2019, we had roughly 2,700 ATC officers. Today, we have 3,900, and we have just got an additional sanction by the finance minister for another 400 ATCOs, because we need officers to be able to man those airports. Similarly, expansion at DGCA. Our ERA, which is our regulatory authority, as more airports are being set up, more price setting in terms of services are going to be going to them to get approval. We've increased the staff at ERA, our regulatory authority, by 10. We've increased the staff at DGCA. We've taken DGCA online. There are 296 services that today are on EGCA, thereby cutting the red tape where individuals have to go to an office and everything must be done online within a prescribed time frame. So those capacities today are being put in place. We've redone policies. The MRO policy, the FTO policy needed change. It was a royalty-based system, a high rental system. We've abolished all royalties, we've brought down rentals so as to give impetus for growth. Because I firmly believe the time has come in India not only to look at airports and airplanes. Those are the most visible things to our eye. But we need to firmly supplant the civil aviation ecosystem in India. And when I talk about ecosystem, we need to talk about MROs. We need to talk about FTOs, flying training organizations. We've grown flying training organizations from 35 to 50 in our country over the last 1.5 to 2 years. We've given the highest number of commercial pilot license in the history of India in the past fiscal year. We need to make sure our ground handling is on a firm footing. All of these ecosystem fundamentals have to be put in place. And that's one of the things that we are looking at in a very, very dedicated manner. The other thing that we have tried to do is to reduce costs for airlines. And let me give you an example of that. value-added tax on ATF in India was at an absurd high number of 30%, which means that you had a whammy on ATF pricing. Pre-COVID, it was at 53,000 rupees a kiloliter. It's today at 1,07,000 rupees a kiloliter. 21, we had 12 states that charge VAT between 1 to 4%. And we had 24 states and union territories that charged VAT between 25 to 30%. Through our commitment, our arduous effort, that today has transformed itself into 31 states, ladies and gentlemen, that in India today charge a VAT of only 1 to 4%, and there are only 5 states left in India that charge a VAT of 25 to 30%. That is the transformation that we are seeing in our sector today. And therefore, with that growth potential, that institutional supplantation of forces that will assist you in that effort as you move along, that potential of growth, I firmly believe that India is well set on her way. And as our topic in Wings India 2024 says for this year, that it is going to be our journey from our Amrit Kal to our Shatabdi Kal, from 2023 to 2047. That harbinger, that message today positions India as a growth center of potential. And I firmly believe that we are set to become from the 3rd largest domestic market, the 18th largest international market, the 7th largest domestic and international market, in this journey till 2047, to become the largest civil aviation market in the world on a domestic and international scale. The Secretary has talked about the growth of an international hub in India. It shocks me to see that we do not have an international hub in India. Our hubs are either with our neighbors on the east or our neighbors on the west. It is imperative that we create a hub in India. And for that, we must have many more international flights, both coming into our country and going out from our country, that go from point to point. And that is going to be possible today with the number of ASAs that we have signed, the number of open sky policies that we have signed with multiple countries. The fact today that the unlocking of value has taken place. An example of that is Air India, a company that under the government was bleeding 7,200 crores of common taxpayers' money, today has become a potential of growth for our country with this international historic order of 470 planes with Airbus and Boeing. That is the unlocking of value. That is the unlocking of potential. And so in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as Henry Ford once said, if everyone moves forward together, then success takes care of itself. And so today it's my fervent plea to you that we need to move forward together. And I'm going to end with what I started with, that in your success lies our success, and in your success lies our country's success. Thank you very much for having me, and welcome to Wings 2024.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your words of inspiration and motivating all of us on this momentous occasion. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the concluding remarks and for the words of thanks, I would like to invite Mr. Shailesh K. Pathak, Secretary General, FICCI. Please put your hands together to welcome him.
I'll speak from here. If it's all right, I'll speak from here, save
Sure,
some
sir.
time,
Sure, sir.
and tell you an extra story. But Adarniya Jyotiraditya Sindhya ji, Honorable Minister, dignitaries in the dais, dignitaries in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. Honorable Minister said that there are four critical elements that are coming together in the rise of India: economic growth, urbanization, disposable income, and aspiration. And when these four come together, India is flying on many wings, and which is why Wings India. But let me tell you a story about something that happened 8 days ago, 11,600 kilometers away, where High Commissioner of Canada, who's here, was present. So we were in a room full of the 20 richest pension fund investors in the world. And the CEO of Fairfax was sitting next to me, owner of Bangalore Airport, among others. And they said the reason we are interested in India is that airports in India are only going to see much more traffic. So not only in India, but halfway across the world, people are convinced of India's rise, which is actually an entire ecosystem's rise. So that's the first. Minister said that the role of government is changing from a regulatory role to a round table where you sit with private stakeholders as facilitators. And that brings me back to my second story. 2 days ago, we were in an Indian Air Force logistics seminar. And the two key lessons were, with the C295, manufacturing ecosystems in India will develop. And with dual-use MROs, more and more MRO work will happen in India. And as was said, currently there are less than 100 destinations, international destinations connecting India with the world. I am confident that at the rate at which Minister, Secretary, and the others are going, we will definitely have more than 200 destinations connecting Indian metro cities in the next 10 years. My number for 700 planes and 280 helicopters in the next 7 years, I'm confident that there will be at least a 2 to 5x. And in 10 years from now, 2033, we will look back and say we were aiming so low and we've done so much better. And I'll conclude by quoting Mahatma Gandhi. I was reading his speech to the FICCI annual general meeting on 7th of April, 1931, 96 years ago. And he said, I quote, "Commercial prosperity is fully compatible with strict honesty." He knew that the ESG revolution would come a few years later, but with the commercial prosperity and with the industry itself cleaning up and getting into a higher growth path and better ecosystems, on behalf of industry, sir, I can only assure you, as you said, this is only scratching the top of the envelope. So ladies and gentlemen, please come to Wings India on the first 2 days, because on the third and the fourth day, 100,000 visitors will be there. Yeah? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, I once again take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister, all our esteemed dignitaries for kindly sparing their time and being here with us. We also take this opportunity to thank each one of you for being here with us today, this evening. And on that note, we close the proceedings, inviting all of you to kindly join us for drinks and dinner. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the evening. Have a safe drive home. Good evening and namaskar.